The flames in Thornvale were out, but the air was thick with the scent of ruin. Villagers, faces streaked with soot, began rebuilding amid the blackened remains. The clang of hammers replaced the beast's roar, but a heavy silence lingered. Camelot's knights stood victorious, battered but alive, their triumph muted. Songs would be sung, but those who faced the beast felt only unease. This was no wild monster. It was something crafted, a weapon. The knowledge poisoned their victory, leaving doubt in every heart. Around campfires, knights and villagers shared quiet meals, laughter replaced by wary glances. The beast was gone, but its creator remained at large. The question haunted them: who had sent the monster, and what would come next? The battle was won, but the war was just beginning. The shadow of the unknown clung to Thornvale, refusing to lift. In Camelot's stone halls the mood was grim. King Arthur and his council pored over maps and reports, searching for answers. The beast's origin eluded them. Every theory fell short. The council's debates grew heated, but no solution emerged. Merlin, silent and distant, watched the sunset, lost in thought. He listened to whispers of magic, sensing a threat older than any monster. The council fell quiet, turning to Merlin for wisdom. But Merlin knew the answer lay beyond maps and words. It was hidden in ancient magic, in places forgotten by most. Only he could seek it out. The truth was buried deep, waiting to be unearthed, and Merlin would be the one to find it. The war room emptied, its candles flickering out. Exhausted advisors left, defeated by a mystery they couldn't solve. Arthur lingered, tracing the kingdom's borders on a worn map. The victory at Thornvale felt hollow, a brief respite before a greater storm. Merlin stood by the window, silent and grave. Arthur finally spoke. "You see more than the rest of us," Merlin replied. "Some answers lie beyond men's reach." With a nod, Merlin departed, leaving Arthur alone with his worries. The wizard's journey would not be guided by maps, but by ancient power. As moonlight crept across the castle, Merlin slipped into the shadows. He left behind the world of men, seeking truths buried deep below. The real battle, Arthur realized, was only beginning, and Merlin was already on its path. Merlin walked the castle's forgotten corridors, leaving the comfort of his tower behind. He passed royal chambers and vaults, descending deeper into the earth. His staff lit the way, shadows flickering on ancient stone. He moved past treasures and relics, secrets of men, but not what he sought. Merlin's destination was older, a cavern beneath Camelot itself. The air grew colder, silence thickening with every step. The magical light seemed swallowed by the darkness, yet Merlin pressed on, unafraid. He had made this pilgrimage before, only in times of greatest need. He was close to a power that remembered the world's first days. The heart of Camelot's oldest secret awaited him. The stairway ended at a wall of solid rock. No door, no seam. Merlin raised his staff, feeling the energy in the air. He whispered in the old tongue, words of respect to the ancient spirit within the stone. Blue runes flared to life, tracing patterns across the rock. The wall receded, revealing a vast, glowing cavern. Merlin stepped inside. The entrance sealed silently behind him. The chamber was circular, its walls smooth and ancient. At its center stood a towering monolith of crystalline stone. It pulsed with blue light, humming with immense power. This was the Whispering Stone, older than Camelot, keeper of forgotten truths. Merlin approached, ready to seek the answers buried within. The fate of the kingdom depended on what he would learn here. The real story was about to begin. Merlin entered the glowing chamber, his staff dimming in respect to the stone's ancient light. The Whispering Stone stood before him, a jagged monolith older than memory, etched with runes not made by any hand. It was said to be a fallen star, a relic from before the world knew the sun. Merlin approached, his heart open and honest, seeking wisdom for Camelot's fate. He asked the stone, "What darkness rises to threaten our world?" The moment his plea left his lips, the stone responded. A brilliant blue light flared, forcing Merlin to shield his eyes. Darkness swirled behind his eyelids, coalescing into fire and ruin. He stood atop a broken tower beneath a bruised purple sky choked with smoke. A shadowy figure cloaked in darkness radiated immense power. Above, a burning sigil, a serpent devouring its own tail, glowed in the smoky sky. Merlin recognized it instantly. It was the mark of Seraphina. The vision fractured, the crowned serpent shattered, and Merlin was pulled into memories of a forgotten war. He saw a great battle from the Age of Fire, dragons clashing with shadowy creatures, magic and darkness colliding. Among them, an emerald dragon, Frederick, shone with fierce power, his eyes burning with righteous fury. At his side, a slender dragon with storm-grey scales unleashed brilliant violet fire. Together, they fought as one, unstoppable, a force of nature and magic. Two dragons, once united, now locked in a tragic battle. Merlin glimpsed a lost alliance, shattered by betrayal and sorrow. The vision fractured, memories of friendship turned to hatred, a bond broken beyond repair. Flames of betrayal consumed all, echoing through time. The vision ended, leaving Merlin alone in silence, haunted by the stone's sorrowful truth. In the ancient chamber, silence shattered as stone scraped against stone. Merlin turned, breathless, to see Frederick, his emerald scales glinting in blue light, standing in the archway. The dragon's gaze lingered on the monolith, sorrowful and knowing. "You went to the stone," Frederick rumbled, not accusing, just weary. The visions haunted Merlin, the crowned serpent, the dark dragon, the betrayal. The darkness had a name, a history, bound to the noble dragon before him. At the mention of her, a visible change came over Frederick. Shadows flickered across his golden features, his jaw tightening with restrained grief. The name hung in the air, unspoken yet heavy. Finally, Frederick spoke, voice trembling. "Seraphina. Once a name of hope, now a symbol of betrayal." The past was not dead. The crowned serpent was her mark. She had returned. Just as the weight of Seraphina's name settled over the chamber, another presence made itself known. Footsteps, quiet but purposeful, echoed from the stairwell. A figure emerged from the archway, stepping out of the shadow cast by Frederick's immense frame. It was King Arthur. He had followed them, his curiosity and concern for his wizard overriding the silent, unspoken rule that this place was Merlin's alone. His eyes, accustomed to the torchlight of the castle halls, widened as he took in the scene. The vast glowing cavern, the colossal monolith, the ancient dragon, and his trusted advisor standing in quiet communion. Arthur stopped just inside the chamber, a look of awe and confusion on his face. He had lived in Camelot his entire life, yet he had never known of this place. He saw the tension in the room, felt the palpable sorrow radiating from Frederick, and saw the grave expression on Merlin's face. He knew he had stumbled upon something of immense importance, a secret that lay at the very heart of the kingdom's current crisis. He did not speak at first, simply observing, showing a wisdom and restraint that proved his worthiness as a king. He understood this was a sacred moment, and he would not disturb it lightly. His gaze moved from the silent, pulsing stone to the grieving dragon, and then, finally, to Merlin. He had known something was amiss in the war room, had felt Merlin's deliberate distance. Now he understood that his wizard had been seeking an answer far beyond the realm of maps and mortal strategies. He could see that an answer had been found, and that it was a terrible one. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken questions and ancient pain, before Arthur finally broke it, his voice clear and steady, cutting through the heavy atmosphere. "Who is she?" he asked, his question directed at both Merlin and Frederick. Frederick's gaze, which had been fixed on the stone, slowly lifted. It was a look that seemed to span centuries, carrying the weight of ages. He did not look at Arthur, but his eyes remained on the monolith, as if the answer was etched there upon its surface. He began to speak, his voice a low, mournful chronicle. "She was once my kin," he said, the words heavy with loss. "A dragon of unmatched power and cunning. We fought side by side in the Age of Fire." The admission was a glimpse into a world of myth and legend that Arthur had only ever read about in books, now being told as a personal, painful memory. Frederick's words painted a vivid picture for the young king. A story from a time when the world was younger and, well, more volatile. He spoke of an era of grand alliances and cataclysmic battles, a time when dragons were not solitary legends but a powerful unified force against a tide of darkness. Seraphina had been one of their greatest champions, her intellect as sharp as her claws, her mastery of arcane fire second to none. She and Frederick were celebrated as heroes, their bond a symbol of hope for all who fought for the light. It was a golden age, a time of shared purpose and victory, but that age was not destined to last. Frederick's voice grew heavier, laced with the bitter poison of betrayal. Her heart turned toward darker things, he continued, the memory clearly causing him immense pain. She believed dragons should rule, not protect, that the lesser races were tools, not allies. He described a growing schism, a philosophical divide that became a chasm of ambition and cruelty. Seraphina began to dabble in forbidden magic, twisting life and bending it to her will, believing that true power came not from balance, but from absolute dominion over all other living things. Merlin nodded, the pieces of his own vision slotting perfectly into Frederick's grim tale. "She lives," the wizard stated, his voice firm, leaving no room for doubt, "or is being drawn back into this world. The creature we faced at Thornvale, it bore her mark." He described the symbol he had seen in the vision, the crowned serpent devouring its own tail, a perversion of the symbol for infinity and life, twisted life, born of flame and cruelty. It was her magic, a pale imitation of her power, but unmistakably hers. The monster was not just a beast, it was a signature, a declaration that its master was stirring from her long slumber. Arthur listened intently, his frown deepening with every word. The puzzle was finally taking shape, and the image it formed was more terrifying than he could have imagined. This was not a war against mindless beasts rampaging out of the wilderness. This was a war against a thinking, breathing entity with a history, a motive, and a pre-existing connection to one of his greatest allies. "Then our war is not with monsters alone," Arthur concluded, his voice resonating with regal authority. "It is with a mind and a will." Frederick's jaw tightened, his golden eyes flashing with a renewed ancient fire, "and one I know too well." A heavy silence filled the hidden chamber. The revelation of Seraphina's name changed everything. The truth was a burden, a wound from an ancient war threatening to reopen. Arthur, Merlin and Frederick stood united, bound by terrifying knowledge. This was no simple battle, but a war of ideology and memory. For Frederick, Seraphina's return was a dagger in his ancient heart. The whispering stone revealed a future choked in shadow. Only together could they face the darkness rising once more. In the torchlit chamber, Merlin's voice broke the silence. "We must find the source before Seraphina returns." The threat was real. Curses, armies, horrors long buried. Arthur's resolve hardened. The burden of command was his. At dawn, they would ride, united, king, wizard and dragon, against a storm gathering on the horizon. The time for questions was over. The quest and the war had begun. As dawn touched Camelot's towers, Arthur, Merlin and Frederick emerged from the shadows, leaving the whispering stone behind. The castle awoke to another day, unaware of the storm gathering. For them, it was the dawn of a new and terrible war. As sunlight broke over Camelot, a shadow lingered at the edge of the light. The war against Seraphina had only just begun.